Shalom, Kol Halal Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakaha Kwadash. Double honors into the apostles, double honors into the elder bishops. Salutations to all my fellow laborers doing this work in truth and sincerity, risking their lives and their freedom to do so, now more so than ever. Those that would be judges, 144,000. And the scattered elect that are scattered around the four corners of the earth, that be like unto the speckled bird, the Israelite foreigners, among the heathen that look like those heathen nations. This is not a black thing. And to the few Akwaf that are listening and learning, to you I say shalom. And this is, I'm just doing completely through the spirit. This is a video that I happen to, just peep and watch. Well, not this particular video, but the video that's related to this. Upon opening my eyes and praising Yahweh Basham Yahweh Shai, first thing I saw was these men who defied the sheriff with an arms, standoff, so to speak. And they did it in support of these four men who got arrested, who, in my opinion, very stupidly and foolishly were armed at a school board meeting, even though supposedly it was all concealed carry. You couldn't see their weapons. They weren't open carrying. But the fact is, there's certain places, where you're not supposed to bring, your firearms and your weapons, and a school is one of them. And they're going to give their argument back and forth. But what this is really showing you is just the disconnect between the people and the government, and the government's lack of governance according to the laws of the land. And this guy's, I'm going to let this guy, speak. Well, we're going to play some of this story. And you'll see their stance on it. But these guys, these people, what Americans don't realize, their support, this militia group here, all former soldiers who've gone over and raped, robbed, and murdered in the name of democracy to take other people's shit from them. This is why they're so, diehard about keeping their firearms, because Esau Edom does not want to lose what they stole. All right. They don't want it to be done back unto them. And, armed Americans is basically helped take America from the rightful inhabitants and made it their own by way of force, all preaching love and colonized plantation Christianity the whole time that they were doing it, preaching this message of love. All right. Basically, love me. I'm your master. Bow down to me. You're a piece of shit. And the Lord is going to love you when you're dead, when you get to go to savage heaven, or nigger heaven. And it may sound harsh, but that's truly the mindset that they had, and truly the mindset that the majority of them still have to this day, especially guys like this one. All right. So, and then this guy, Antonio Hernandez, well, we got a scripture for him. Okay, so let's start with him, with his scripture first, which is Isaiah, I believe it's 13. The point is in 15, but I'm going to start at verse 10. At verse 9. All right. It says, "Behold, the day of Yahweh cometh cruel, and with wrath, and with fierce anger, to lay the land desolate, and he shall destroy the sinners thereof out of it. For the stars of heaven and the constellations thereof shall not give their light. The sun shall be darkened. It is his going forth, and the moon shall not cause her light to shine." So when those chariots come, there's going to be so many of them. When those arrows fly from one end of the earth of the other, there's going to be so many of them. They're going to blot out the stars of heaven. They're going to block out the light that comes down naturally from heaven. All right. And before that time happens, is going to be utterly chaos and destruction and death here on earth. And so while he's standing up for his rights, all right, because what you have to understand, this civil war is going to turn quickly into a race war. Because no one, now this group of men with him may stand with him and fight with him. But you best believe another group of men, all right, that don't know Antonio, when they see him, he's just another migrant unto them. And they're not going to differentiate a Mexican, a Puerto Rican American, or Mexican American, or Native American, all right, with this lighter shade of brown. You know, that was a group out of California. They was actually pretty decent, all right, but a musical group. But nevertheless, they're not going to differentiate, because you have to understand that the Civil War is going to also be a race war and utter chaos. All right. And Antonio Hernandez is going to be killed, hung, or whatever manner of destruction that comes upon him by the very same men that he calls himself fighting with. All right. It says, and I will punish the world for their evil and the wicked for their iniquity. And I will cause the arrogancy of the proud to cease. And I will lay low the haughtiness of the terrible. That's Esau, Edom, the white man, because he's haughty and terrible. And the Lord's going to lay him down. And I will make a man more precious than fine gold, even a man with the golden, even a man than the golden wedge of Ophir. So the man's going to be more precious than gold, and not just any man, an Israelite man, and not just any Israelite man, a man of the elect who is doing the work of Yahweh Bashar Shai is going to have that covering over him, which these men or other things will not be able to touch. And it's going to be evident who those men are when that time comes. Therefore, I will shake the heavens and the earth, and shall remove out of her place in the wrath of Yahweh of hosts, and in the days of his fierce anger. So once those missiles get to flying, and if you can't see that we're on the verge of World War III, all right, and all the chaos that's going to be happening in the major cities and in the small towns and in the valleys, and it's going to be utter chaos everywhere. Because most people are going to flee to the middle of nowhere. That's where they're going to go to. All right. You're going to have hordes of people leaving the cities, fleeing into these small country towns and into these mountainous towns and these places in the valleys. All right. And they're going to need food and water. And they're not just going to, and they're going to come armed, heavily armed. All right. It says, and so all that happens as this place is falling. It just doesn't fall. So what I'm reading, it just don't happen and then it's over. No, it's going to be a lot of chaos. You know, JT, Jacob's trouble. All right. Verse 14, and it shall be as a chase roe and as a sheep that no man taketh up, that every man shall turn to his own people and flee everyone into his own land. So, you know, people, and a lot of people here in Babylon, you're not going to have the ability to be able to flee back to your own land. You will be able to flee back to your own neighborhood where everyone looks like you, to your own groups of people. People are going to flee to their like kind, to people who look like them. And they may not even, it may not even be an issue where they have a problem with people that don't look like them. It's just that it won't be safe because of the racial conflicts. All right. I'm sure that Mr. Hernandez really enjoys hanging out with his buds. They probably smoke, joke, play poker, and drink, and all that together. All right. But the truth of the matter is, in a firefight, all right, if his friends go down or are not around when another group of three Edomites show up, these three can't vouch for him. Yeah. Okay. You're going to find out. Next scripture. And everyone that shall be found shall be thrust through, and every one that is joined unto them shall fall by the sword. So you joined unto their causes and their beliefs, you know, you jakes that are out there, you know, all with all this voting mess. The scriptures clearly say we don't vote. We don't put anyone over us that's not of our people. All right. We don't do that. We don't get involved in that. Okay. The Lord said he would pick one from among our own. Barack Obama was not your own. He's a Hamite. All right. Hamite is a different brown race of people. You know, Kamala Harris is actually an Edomite. She gets a little melanin because of her her mother's Indian ancestry. She came from Edomite Jamaican families, white people in Jamaica and the islands, Edomites that owned slaves. Kamala came from from wealth, and she gets her little brown skin from the Indians. As a matter of fact, Antonio Hernandez looks more like East Indian than he does Northern Kingdom. Just to be honest with you, but the East Indians are also Hebrew. But nevertheless, this dude could pass for Sanji, for he could be Sanjay. So let's play this story and hear the folly, the foolishness that these four did, which brought on all this drama. So here it is.
Accused school board members of slashing his tires. Now they're all facing gun.
Hold on.
Gloucester County deputies have arrested 4 men they say brought weapons into a school board meeting. We first brought you this story last week after one of the men accused school board members of slashing his tires. Now they're all facing gun charges, and Emily Harrison has a closer look.
5 days after the incident, 28-year-old Trevor Herron, 32-year-old Derica Blunt, 27-year-old Antonio Hernandez, and 26-year-old Christopher Cordasco. 32-year-old. 5 days after the incident, 28.
So I guess he's printing.
Year-old Trevor Herron, 32.
Printing means when your weapon is showing through your clothes. All right. So he clearly went to this meeting with the weapon on him, and the people saw it. All right. So here we go.
Derica Blunt, 27-year-old Antonio Hernandez, and 26-year-old Christopher Cordasco all face gun charges. This after Gloucester County Sheriff's deputies say the men came with guns and knives to a school board meeting. According to an eyewitness, the men initially walked away with no charges. Deputies later charged them all with bringing a gun onto school property and Herron for not having a permit to carry and conceal the weapon. Some have questioned why the arrest took so long, but a spokesman with Gloucester County Sheriff's Office says, quote, the investigation which led to the arrest was fairly involved and time-consuming, and our conclusion was reached as quickly as we could under these circumstances. We have just...
Well, they may be able to fight that just listening to it. Well, except for the guy who had a weapon and didn't have a permit to carry it. He may have some issues. All right. But if they weren't seen, if they were concealed carry and they were on the property and no one ever knew it, this whole story, we'll see what happens. It might be an unrightful search or whatever they call that. But we're going to look at the defiance, the spirit of defiance of these men. Now, all I know is that what I'm looking at, when these men came to this meeting, all right, they were supposed to be meeting to have a protest against police officers, and they this heavily armed and getting down in positions and stuff like that, defensive positions. All I can tell you that if this was a group of men of color, brown men, all right, there'd have been a problem. There'd have been SWAT teams and a whole sheriff departments, and everybody would have showed up. All right, and heavily armored vehicles. It might even called out the National Guard, man. So there's definitely a two-tier standard of justice being here in America. So I'm going to play about 5 or 6 minutes of what this video have to say. And then I'm going to, what this guy has to say. And then I'm going to give a few more scriptures and close this out. All right, so here we go.
Constitutional citizens, constitutionally adhering citizens, we will do exactly what they did and embrace the potential repercussions. So we want to first note by saying that this is...
He's not doing exactly what they did. They didn't go inside the building. All right. So these guys are outside the building, and this is in the state of Virginia. And they're all heavily armed with semi-automatic or fully automatic, I don't know, AR-style weapons and sidearms. All right. With plenty of magazines. So they definitely, could cause some damage right now against any law enforcement group, even if the law enforcement was 3 or 4 sides at times. It's their size, especially if these guys are military trained. They could pose a serious problem. All right, but just to keep it, on the up and up, they did not go inside the school, cross the barriers of the zone where they're supposed to be weapons free with children. So they're not doing the same exact thing that those guys did. So this guy's being very disingenuous.
It's technically a press conference, not a protest. And we have a message that we want to read to y'all as concerned citizens of Virginia. All the speaking I've ever done, I've never written a speech. So this has been written and contributed to by several members here. And so we'll present that to y'all. So initially we had planned to make
So these 7 geniuses put their heads together and came up with he's about to read. Came up with this
speech to law enforcement, but since they're a no-show, we're going to make it to y'all. So members of the media, the public, my brother's standing here in arms today, law enforcement that is probably stalking this right now, and whoever else cares to listen. Why are we here? Today, August 19th of 2023, many of us young men of Virginia who have either been in war or served our country have a grievance against the Sheriff's Office of Gloucester County, Virginia. In 2021, this Sheriff's Office, among many other Sheriff's offices in the state of Virginia, vowed to be a Second Amendment sanctuary, promising to preserve the very amendment that protects our Constitution and our homeland. In recent months, they have enforced...
Remember that whole thing about protecting our homeland and our Constitution. And I told you these people are ready to fight and die for this Constitution, because the Constitution was really put in place to preserve white superiority. And that's the grimy, uncomfortable truth. Because when the Constitution was written, natives were called savages, and Negroes were considered to be 3/5 of a man or something to that nature. All right, you were in slavery. You people who want to vote for Kamala Harris just because she's so-called black, and she's not even black. She's just a melanated white person. All right, her fathers and forefathers are Edomites. All the pictures of the dark people that were supposed to be her ancestors were not. It was all frauds. Her father's side of the family looks just like this man is speaking. All right, and has the same spirit. Remember, Kamala Harris gets her melanin from her mother's Indian descent. All right, and I'm talking about East Indian, which basically East savage, because that's what the word Indian means. They purposely call you a savage.
Unconstitutional laws and invented new offenses to satisfy their desire to control this country's politics, including the arrest of 4 citizens lawfully exercising their right to carry a weapon, one of which is actively serving this great nation.
Now, there's 2 sides of that coin, because according to the Constitution, every individual has the right to bear arms. So you should be able to carry a knife and a gun without an issue if you're an American citizen according to constitutional law. All right. But within the states, they have all these statutes and codes which supersede and override the law. All right. And they violate constitutional law in each and every one of these states all the time. So if that is his point, he's actually correct. OK, just putting that out there.
When I say the word lawfully, I mean in accordance with the rights protected by the Constitution,
yep,
and without regard to any supposed law that contradicts those rights.
So that would be a code or a statute. In code or statutes, he's right. Codes and statutes are not supposed to override the law of the land. So when these city ordinances, you can't bring a knife here, can't bring a gun here, that's actually in violation of constitutional law. But as I've said, they violate constitutional law all day long, every day, and they have been doing it for damn near more than half a century. Most of the things in place to make you make payments are violations of the constitutional law. My favorite one to bring up is Title 4D child support. All right, Title 4D child support is of a foreign entity. All right, and it is illegal once again. Well, it was, and now I'll explain to you why it was illegal. It's completely legal now, unfortunately, but it was illegal to put a U.S. citizen under a foreign treaty. So every person, man or woman, because there's some women get stuck on it too, who has been forced to into the child support, the Title 4D child support arena, which is completely illegal and immoral, because the way they do it, they don't even follow their own rules. It's very effed up the way they do it. Everyone up until October 22nd of 2024, it was done to them illegally. And I'll explain that.
These men have fallen victim to weaponized politics.
Yep.
Concerned for the community, they attended a school board meeting at an office facility.
In the same way that America has used the dollar against all the other nations. Weaponized politics. all right, to get the other nations to get in line and actually override the laws of their land and concede to these maritime treaties which supersede the laws of their land and violate their constitution. So it's not only being done to American citizens, it's being done to the citizens of the world. All right. And see, they're out here in protest because they think that they have rights, and they don't have rights. All right. Because as of October 22nd, 2024, the Future Pact, all right, was enacted. The World Future Pact was enacted, and that supersedes the Constitution. I personally had a lawsuit against an illegal Title 4D, which was in deliberation for over a year. All right. It took 4 years to even get it in court. They fought so hard to not even get it in court because they knew they had no defense against constitutional law. But on the 22nd, when that Future Pact was enacted, all right, about 5 days after, on the 27th, I got an electronic email that my case had been closed because the judge had no jurisdiction. Why did she went from ruling over it and didn't rule over it purposely, because if she ruled over it, I won according to constitutional law. I was able to prove my point beyond a shadow of a doubt. All right. All right. But now she actually does not have jurisdiction and couldn't rule over it because she no longer had jurisdiction, because America is now under the WEF and the WHO and the UN. Constitutional law is no longer the law of the land. And once these geniuses you see on the screen figure this out collectively, you're going to have some problems. So let's go to the scriptures, man. Because the masses haven't figured that out yet. All right. Because guess what? Your tax laws are the same thing. The IRS is really a private entity. It has nothing to do with the law of the land. It's a privately owned bank. But yet they rule over the people and take their money and then actually use the legal system, the prison system, against some of the people when they don't play their game right. So, like I said, they've been violating the constitutional law all along. When people begin to, and they dumb you down, all right? They dumb you down totally or purposely. They don't teach law I just told they don't even teach the Constitution anymore. And I said that in school, there's a requirement to graduate, to go to high school. And I always said, damn, you know what? It really would make sense for everyone to learn and study the Constitution in their senior year of high school as they're going into their adult life, as you're about to go away to college or go into the workforce, which would be the time that the knowledge of the Constitution would be most useful to one. Not when you're 13, 14 years old and now you got to go and then you're getting, with math, science, and all the other things that you're going to be, subject to, and you just forget all about the law because you're too busy trying to, pass algebra and geometry and trigonometry and, and learn all the, whitewashed history, all the fabricated whitewashed history. You're too busy with all that. Okay. So Americans have been dumbed down on purpose. And that's part of that secret counsel, Isaiah 29:15. It says, woe unto them that seek deep to hide their counsel from Yahweh, and their works are in the dark, and they say, who seeth us and who knoweth us? So the civil law not being taught in school and the Constitution no longer being taught to students, all right, is evidence, within itself that they're purposely trying to hide information and keep the population dumbed down. All right, because if the citizens had any idea of all the violations, this sort of thing, what you're looking on the screen, would have been a regular thing a long time ago. All right, America might have already have had its civil war and whatever, and the government have been replaced like in a lot of these other countries. All right, but you know, prophecy has to be fulfilled. So, but now let's go to the book of Second Ezra, because this spirit of rebellion, of sedition, okay, is really here. So I'm going to read 2 Ezra 16 and 17. It says, woe is me, who will deliver me in those days? All right, because it's going to get so violent, so bloody. All right, no food, no water, supplies cut off. Men like this fighting against, you know, the troops and things that are here, that are really anti-American anyway, and which are going to be granted American citizenship if they get rid of people like him. So it's going to be, and they're going to be fighting to try to keep, you know, because hey, you can deny it all you want, man, but there's a strong level of white superiority that goes along with the Constitution and constitutional law. All right, they'll pretend and say that it's for everyone and blah blah blah, but that's not so. That's just not the honest truth, not the 100% truth at all. All right, because sometimes you know that American flag can be representation to a lot of people of color, especially Negroes. And, you know, especially Israelites. It could also be a big sign of oppression, because now it wasn't just the Confederate flag that they were heavily oppressed under. It was also, you know, Old Glory there as well. And that's just a brutal, uncomfortable truth. All right. But verse 18, 2 Ezra 16, 18, the beginning of sorrows and great mournings, and the beginnings of famine and great death, the beginnings of wars, and the power shall stand in fear, and the beginning of evils. What shall I do when these evils come? Behold, famine, plague, tribulation, anguish are the scourges for amendment. So the Lord is doing this to fix you, to punish them for all they've done. But all these things they shall not turn from their wickedness, nor be always mindful of their scourges. So when these people are losing families and friends and dying, and when these guys are going on their murderous rape campaigns the same way they did when they went overseas, and then got labeled heroes when they come back here, after you done kicked indoors and had your way with other men's wives and daughters, you know, and stolen their possessions and tortured and killed them, because that's what happens in war. And Americans do it, and they probably did it worse than anybody else. They just don't always talk about it. And there's plenty of books and movies that show you that. All right, I just saw a video, you know, earlier, where some guy was, you know, talking about all the travesty was done to the Iraqis, all in the name of a lie. There were never any weapons of mass destruction. Yet war was declared on their society, and their society was broken. All right. 2 Ezra 15 and 14. And it reads, woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for sword in their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another with swords in their hands. These guys are all got heavily swords on them. The modern day sword is a gun. But there also will be actual swords, you know, short swords, knives, you know, cleavers, hatchets, tomahawks, hammers. All right. I've said it, that a lot of people are going to die by hammer and baseball bat. All right. Butcher knives. That's going to be the most readily available things in people's hands when the chaos break out. Those who are not armed, or when they run out of bullets. All right. Those who are not prepared either don't have a gun, or they're going to run out of bullets pretty quickly, and they're going to use whatever they have in their hands, screwdrivers, whatever. It's going to get pretty bad out there. All right. The construction working belt will become a serious weapon. All right. If you got 10 men with hammers in their hands, it's not. Oh, it says, for there shall be sedition among men, and invading one another, and they shall not regard their kings nor princes. And in the course of their actions, they shall stand in their power. These men were standing up against the sheriff's department, against this particular sheriff and his department, who they felt like violated the Constitution. Well, your Constitution has been done away with and violated by your people in office. All right, who's given it over to, starting with Barack Obama. He was the one that signed that NDAA Act. All right. So, and then it's his administration continuation that's in office now. All right. It says, A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able, for because of their pride the city shall be troubled, houses shall be destroyed, and men shall be afraid. And a man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of the lack of bread and great tribulation. So because of the lack of food, water, and substance, these people are going to turn on one another. It's going to get bloody, violent in America, and that those days are dangerously close at hand. Call halal Yahweh Bahasham Yahweh Shai Bahasham Rakaha Kwadash Kwam Yasarala Abad Babal.